episode 2. Okay, here we are. I just want to say thank you for coming back for another piece of the story. 23 years is a long time to be stuck doing the same thing that just isn't fun to do. At the time, it seems, I don't know, somewhat beneficial than working a job all the time. But let me tell you, 23 years as an addict, or however long you have it as an addict, is very difficult. It's a very difficult life. I was driving downtown and I saw a guy. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and I saw a guy pushing a shopping cart, and he's got it's pouring rain. It wasn't even a shopping cart, actually. It was just like a little push cart, and he had a bunch of like suitcases and stuff packed up on there with a bunch of other stuff. It was everything he had found or everything he had owned, and he had a vest pulled up over his head to protect himself from the rain. And I thought, I remember that. I remember those days. And I do. And it wasn't cool. It wasn't cool. It's very difficult. And that man reminded me of what I have overcome. The addiction side of things is literally just a method of distraction. That's what addiction is. It's a method of distraction. And in some cases, it has your life become unmanageable, like mine and many others. I understand how fortunate I am to be here today. This I do understand. And it was through a series of avenues of self-discovery, difficult conversations with myself that I had to have in order to overcome and be in the place I am today. I would like to share that I am living in a place of pure love. I've found inner peace, I have found freedom, and I have found love for myself like I didn't really know was attainable because nobody talks about it. Well, I mean, people talk about it, but I didn't really surround myself with people who talk like this. And I appreciate every single human that is listening to this to learn and apply the things that I talk about in your own life. Because I can't change you. I can't make you do anything. As a drug addict, you learn that very quickly. Many people will try to change you, but until you are ready to change on your own terms, no one can do anything. And it doesn't matter if it's addiction or whatever your form of distraction is from dealing with an internal problem. That's up for you. But the reality of this situation is that we're all dealing with something internal, an emotional trauma of some sort. And there's tools to set you free from these emotional traumas. And we can gain these tools by sharing our experiences. And that's what I'm here to do, is share the things that I learned along my journey that can hopefully be applied in your life to set you free. Because that's what this is all about. This isn't about popularity for me. This isn't about money. Like, those things are not for me. This is about raising a collective consciousness within humanity. And an individual acceptance of love for yourself in an honest, authentic way that you discover on your terms. That's what this is. That's what I'm here to do. And that makes it really cool because I don't want nothing in return other than human beings, a part of the human race, to find love that seeks them as well. And it's real. It's so real. The distractions that we have in the world with social media and media outlets that are constantly trying to sell us on fear, we must question why they do this. Why is everything there to scare us? I question that. It's fear from the moment you wake up in the morning. Oh, traffic's so heavy, or shooting last night, or whatever it may be. They start your day off with a whole bunch of fear, anxiety, and stress. So I question, why have we never actually given love a chance? And I found the answer. I found the answer when I started to love myself, and I found out that it is the most powerful thing on the planet. I believe it's the most powerful thing in the universe, to be honest with you. But I know this for a fact, how powerful love is, because once you find what is looking for you, which is love, it's incredible. And I think about myself in my own right, like this thing that I have obtained and grown and continue to grow. That's the other aspect of it, is life is a practice. But I think about this thing that I found and I wonder, and it's become a purpose in my life to see the results of a collective consciousness with love in this manner in as many human beings as I can possibly guide to this light, so I can see what that looks like, because it's incredible. Like the vibrational frequency that you have running through your body, this understanding of connection with nature and human beings, part of the human race, is just it's incredible. There is no such thing as division. We're all part of the same family. Money divides us. Governments try to tell us that because invisible lines separate parts of planet Earth that we're different, and it's just completely incorrect. And if we go back to the emotional traumas that I'm speaking of, why do you think addiction is the same here as it is in Australia or Mexico or Japan or Germany or Nigeria? It's because addiction is a form of distraction from an emotional trauma. And that's because we're human beings, and human beings are all the same. And I sorry, I giggle a little over that, because I can't believe how quickly we have forgotten that. And that breaks my heart. And I'm not exempt from that thinking. Before I came into my awareness of myself, I somewhat was led to make decisions by other people's embedding of ideas in my mind. And that was done through the television, that was done through my parents, that was done through the people I surrounded myself. I wasn't thinking for myself. So I allowed these ideas to grow and adopt as my own. And that's straight bullshit. It just is. We don't give ourselves enough time to think. We just allow other people to think for us. That's really something to think about, When we constantly have the television on, or we're constantly looking at social media or whatever we can do, and then when you're working in your daily life, well, you're really not thinking about yourself or thinking for yourself. You're doing a job for someone else to perpetuate money for an individual who probably doesn't need anymore. But that's a reality. And then when we get home, if we have any time for our children, we try and give our children what we can, but then we just turn to television to relax or de-stress, and it kind of clouds us from actually taking time to think about how we feel, or to think about what we need, or to have an honest conversation with yourself or communicate with yourself, understanding your own personal goals. I mean, shit, I ask most people about their personal goals. I'm like, do you have a personal goal that you've set? They don't even know what I'm talking about. And that's okay. It's totally okay. But the fact of the matter that I'm asking the question has them think. I've never set a personal goal for myself. And that's just where we are today in society. That's the point we've come to. In the beginning, in that jail cell, 23 years of addiction brought me to a jail cell. I would encourage you to listen to the first episode. It sort of sets the stage for where we are at. But 23 years of practicing a form of distraction through addiction from not dealing with my emotional traumas brought me to a prison cell at my lowest point in life. I was homeless. I had nothing. I'd lost my kids. I'd lost the place we were staying at. From there, I was living in my car, which I had lost. I lost everything until I lost myself. And after I had gone through my withdrawals from the opiate addiction that I had created, withdrawal symptoms, or withdrawals are what happen when you are not having a drug or a substance in your system that you have become accustomed to. Your body is withdrawing from those effects or lack thereof. And with that comes symptoms, and it's an excruciating pain. Fentanyl is one of the worst things on the planet. It most certainly is. There's nothing organic about it. So a synthesized drug leads to a world of problems. Most of you know about the Oxycontin pandemic that hit most homes. Well, fentanyl is 1,000 times worse, and it's just very incredible. This is the opiate pandemic that we have today. We'll talk a lot more about that as this show continues. But for me, withdrawal symptoms in there were just, I never slept for like 5 days. I was throwing up. Your muscles spasm in a way that's just like inhuman, And I'm just explaining this so you have an understanding of what we're going through. Some people will come here to learn about their loved one through addiction, and I hope to try and help that. I would like to be there for those individuals. So what happened in that jail cell was I accepted where I was and where I was at in my life. I was 36 years old when that happened. Today I'm 38. I will be 39 in November. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a Scorpio. I was 36 when that happened. So, that's an age, right? That's, some people look at that as being, wow, what am I going to do? You should have all these things figured out in your life and whatever. But for me, I was just accepting the fact that for 23 years, I had used drugs as a form of distraction from my emotional traumas. I had accepted that in that moment. I had done that in a different way. Obviously, through 23 years, I knew what I was doing fully, but I never really addressed it. I just kept making excuses for what I was doing, and somehow that became acceptable, that I was just going to change or everything was going to be okay, and I, deep down as an addict, it's not over. You like to believe it is, or you like to trick yourself, but we're easily persuaded back to old habits. So in that jail cell, I had finally accepted where I had come in my life and what had brought me there. And no more was I going to allow any more excuses into my life, because at that moment of acceptance of everything I had done up to that point, in that place and time where I was and why I had arrived there, I had accepted. Once you accept where you're at in your life, then you can become honest with yourself, and you can talk to yourself about whether or not you are okay with it. If you're going to continue to make excuses for where you are, or if you're going to do something about it. And interestingly enough, in that jail cell, even though I was in prison and that my fate had not yet been decided for how long I was going to be there, I had accepted that I was going to do something different from that point forward. And that's a very challenging thing to do once you've practiced a certain life behavior for 23 years that doesn't really have any benefit to your personal growth. It's a whole lot of mental health issues just with bad thought processes, self-esteem issues, self-confidence, things that we can all associate to. And that's why I bring this up. Addiction comes with the same sorts of self-abuse, we'll call it, as any other emotional trauma. It's just the outlet that you use is different, but the feelings are the same. So I want to talk about that so we can associate, right? Because it isn't just about addiction. And emotional trauma is something that holds you back in life from growing. And that's very important to understand, that we all have those. Now, some people are able to process them, but some people bury them. Most of us bury them, and we don't address them. And anything that we don't address just grows and it evolves, because we put more things in there that we don't process, because we practice this behavior of not processing emotions or not having difficult conversations, first with ourselves and then with another individual if they are involved in this emotional trauma. We have this great difficulty with doing that. And that's okay, because it's a learned behavior, because most of us have been taught to do this, whether it's in society, whether it's through media or whether it's from our parents or friends and family, whatever it may be, right? That's reality. That's why most of us have arrived at this place with emotional traumas. So the very first step is to accept that emotional trauma. Accept why you are in the place you are in. If you're not happy and you don't love yourself, that's okay. But accept it so you can do something about it. When we try and make excuses for these things, we just stay stale. We don't grow, or we stay in a pattern of thinking which we attach to just the emotion of the circumstance. Or we just stay in an emotional cycle that has us repeat the emotional trauma that we felt in the memory. So we choose to distract from it. I know it's difficult. I know all about difficult things, and I know all about a difficult life, and I know that going into our past is not an easy thing to do because we've buried it for quite some time. And to become honest with ourselves is a very difficult thing to do. But I will tell you, the first step is acceptance. Just accepting that you are not happy with where you are, and you're not happy. In a world where depression is sold to us in a manner that's acceptable because everyone has it and it's okay. I mean, shit. Have you seen these depression commercials? I was in a coffee shop the other day, and they got a television up in the corner. I don't watch TV, but there was one up there, and there was this happy little cartoon who was walking around with a dark cloud over his head and a little blue bird following. And the black cloud was the depression that the human was suffering from. And it was okay because it was passing other humans with dark clouds. And this is totally acceptable in this society. But the little blue bird dropped a pill in the human's lap. And the pill suddenly brought the sun out. It made the dark cloud of depression go away. You don't have to process anything. You don't have to deal with anything. We will deliver you a pill that will take care of everything. Then let's just skip through 30 seconds of side effects and all these horrible things that can happen from synthesized remedy. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to think that we are living in a time where 70% of homes have experienced a form of depression or are in active depression. That's unacceptable. And why? Because we don't want to accept where we're at in our lives or things that happened to us in our past. We don't want to accept that. We want to make excuses for it and just believe that maybe there will be another magic pill that comes down the road that'll have us, forget. That's the thing. As human beings, we're here to learn. And we're learning through difficult lessons. And you know why we learn through difficult lessons? Because we fucking learn something through difficulty. That's a reality. Most people are so afraid to struggle, They're so afraid to struggle. They don't even want to try something that's hard. It's like, oh, I might fail. Or I might not be good at it. Well, no, you're probably not going to be good at it. You've never done it before. Whatever it may be. A pattern of thinking, a job, a sport, whatever it may be. You're probably not going to be good at it if you've never done it. You have to teach yourself something new, especially with a pattern of thinking. Practicing a thought behavior requires just as much effort as a new job or a new sport or a new experience that you want to have. But the difference between practicing a new thought process is the value in it is priceless because you become closer to the human you want to be. And let's be real, who doesn't want to be happy? Who doesn't want to love themselves? Who doesn't want to be honest and authentic in everything they do? That's the greatest gift that I received, was being able to become that. Absolutely. That was most definitely the most incredible part of becoming honest and authentic and accepting where I was at. is that I found self-love. I found it. And yes, it was difficult to work through some of this stuff. It's not easy. There's no comparison either in emotional traumas. If there's an experience that happened in your life that is holding you in an emotional repetitive cycle that's damaging to your growth, then that's an emotional trauma for you. And there's no judgment, because this is a conversation between you and yourself. This inner work happens with you. This isn't for a loved one. This isn't for the kids. Then I'll tell you, they will benefit from this growth, from this acceptance, from this understanding, from this pursuit of a higher self, of an honest self, of an authentic self. And the benefits are just incredible, because people around you will start to see that you have come into something, because you're no longer pretending. I mean, people can see when we pretend. They're probably pretending too, which is why they don't say nothing. It amazes me how disconnected we've become from each other. And that's another reason why I do this, is because I want to share my story to just encourage other people to seek this inner light, this divine light that is in them, and be okay with that. And be okay with doing something different than everyone else. This whole journey for me, it didn't start out very easy. It's very difficult to tell people, hey man, I was a drug addict for 23 years and I just got out of prison. I was homeless. Like I lived on the street for a couple of years. That was very difficult for me to talk about in the beginning, because I was always judged. So that kind of just stayed with me. But the more I practiced, the better I got at communicating with myself that it was okay, because I had accepted my journey and all the wonderful lessons I had learned through the difficulty. And that's what makes working through emotional traumas the most beautiful aspect, because I'll tell you this, when you can separate from the emotion of the experience and you can see a lesson inside of it, because I promise you there is one. I don't care what emotional trauma you have or what you went through, there is a lesson there. Sometimes they're not the greatest ones, but I'll tell you there's something to learn from. And you can apply that in your present moment and grow from that experience. You don't have to be bound to a certain point in time, which is usually the past, and not grow in the present moment. Because anything that's bounding you to the past has you stale. How are you supposed to give your true, honest, authentic self in the moment if you still have a thought process from the past? You can do this subconsciously. We can pretend to be there for something, but most of us are lost through the phone or practicing all these bad thought processes that have us miss the moment. And we look back on life and they can't even remember most of the things they did. And you know why that is because they weren't there for them. They were there physically, but not mentally. And alignment happens with an emotional, mental, and physical well-being. It is the most incredible thing, because the mind, body, and soul all work together. But when one of those things is out of an alignment, the other two suffer. Emotional health, when damaged, fear, anxiety, and stress, will affect the physical body. This we know. It's a fact. Yet we don't value that knowledge as much as we should. Because if we're running around with fear, anxiety, and stress, and we know that that's detrimental to our physical and mental health, why don't we take the time to work through some of the things that hold us back so we can be best versions of ourselves, emotionally, mentally, and physically? You get to fall in love with yourself and take time for yourself, and that's not selfish. By no means is that selfish. It's a requirement for personal growth, because those of you that seek something more, you'll know what I'm saying. If you're tired of being in the place you are, and you're tired of the same thought process, waking up every single day doing the same thing but expecting a different result, you'll know what I'm talking about. Some call it a rock bottom, some call it a spiritual awakening. I call it a gift. It is an absolute gift to become aware that you have had enough of your current situation, regardless of what it may be. It's an absolute gift to accept that fact. And it's even more a gift to go on the journey of self-discovery to learn about who you are. It is the most priceless thing on the planet, because you will discover who you truly are, and you will not ever have to worry about looking good anymore. It'll be about how you feel, because looking good will come secondary to feeling good, and that's a fact. And that's something that should be talked about heavily. We're so focused on how we look, when in fact it's how we feel that is priceless. Give value to that. Accept your current situation. Have honest, authentic conversations with yourself. Open Pandora's box to your past and let it go. It has no purpose in the present moment other than to teach you lessons. Love yourself. Absolutely. We'll take this up next week. Oh, my social media, if you want to follow me, my Instagram is Real Talk for an Unreal World. My YouTube channel is the same thing. I put the video up with the podcast. I have a Twitter. My Twitter is Real Talk, 4, Unreal. And my email is realtalkforanunrealworld@gmail.com. And if you're listening to this, you have questions or whatever it may be, you can hit me up on my social media. I have a Facebook page under the same name, Real Talk for an Unreal World. You can message me there, ask me questions. You can email me, whatever you need for me to help you grow in your current situation. That's what I'm here to do. I mean, I absolutely mean when I say I care about human beings. I care about the evolution of each and every one of you from an internal perspective versus an external. Have a wonderful week.